What is going on, guys? It is Venom Search here, and welcome to a new series in Elder Scrolls Online. Now, I haven't really played Elder Scrolls Online or ESO much recently. On Xbox, I got to about 1000 CP. On PC, I'm probably around like 300 or 400. So, I've played for a decent bit to know that a lot of ESO videos and tutorials on how to make builds, almost all of them use very similar sets, such as Medusa, Mother Sorrow, Zovkins, Reliquin, or even Sororia, although that one's better for boss fights rather than moving targets. The thing that is common with all that though is there's a lot of sets in the game, but there's also a lot that almost nobody uses, except for a very few people who just want to try something weird out. So this series, I'm going to be trying to go through every single set in the game and try to find a combination of other sets that are not as used. So today, we will be looking at Ranger's Gait. Now this set is not good for putting out damage or survivability. Ranger's Gait is a medium piece of armor that can be found in Grotwood. The set pieces, so we start with Stam Recovery, which is not great. We got Crit Chance, which is great. Max Stam's okay. Stam Recovery again on the 5th piece. And for the final thing, reduces the effectiveness of snares applied to you by 50%. To me, that sounds like a PvP build. Because this is reducing the effectiveness of snares, I thought might as well mix it with Barkskin. Barkskin comes from Elden Hollow 1 and 2. You can do this on vet or normal, it does not matter, there's no difference. The first piece gives you max health, stam recovery, and armor. Just from that, it is looking more like a tank bit set. It is not at all going to help your damage. The 5th piece, however, works very well with our Ranger's Gait. So Barkskin, the 5th piece, reduces the duration of immobilizations and snares applied to you by 50%. When one of those two is applied to you, you heal for 1700 health and restore 858 stam. This can occur every 5 seconds. Ranger's Gait reduces the effectiveness of snares, not immobilizations, those just full out stop you, same with stuns. But snares, those are things that slow you down. Barkskin reduces the duration of those things, and you get a little bit of a heal and stam, which it's not much at all. But between those two sets, we are very much negating anything that's going to slow us down or stop us. Mix this with Immolator Char. This can be found in the Imperial City. One of the bosses that you kill, you can get a chance to get the head from this. First piece is armor and max health. Once again, very much defense based, so this is difficult to get damage out of. When you take damage below 50% health, you gain immunity to all CC's crowd control for 10 seconds. It can occur every 40 seconds. So the idea behind this build is nothing can slow us down. They'll try to. It'll work for half the amount of time. We'll be able to keep up our good pace, and if we happen to get low health, if we get in the struggle during PvP, we get full immunity. Now this is where our CP comes into play. In the red tree, there's a lot of CP stars that help you when you have crowd control immunity. For instance, this. Technically, this is to me not very worth it. A 5% damage reduction is not much. I'd rather just slot a skill rather than this, because this is taking up one of my 4 CP nodes and it's 50 points going to waste. So I would not recommend Juggernaut. Hardened I would, however, absolutely take and make sure it's always on you. increasing your duration by 15% of crowd control immunity means all these other immunity bonuses from the CP are going to last longer. Plus the crowd control stuff doesn't even affect us that much either, so this is really going to help. You can take this, it gives you some more recovery, and the magicka recovery can be worth it depending on what skills you're using. However, I do not prefer that just because there is right here, this is very much worth it to me. I was doing some testing, so I had this slotted. The issue with this node, it gives you automatically break free for no cost. The issue with this, there is a lot of things that can make you stun to where you need to break free. However, most of the stuns you can actually just roll dodge out of, and when you roll dodge you don't take damage for a little bit, and it has now moved you somewhere, and sometimes you got other passives that help when you roll dodge. So while this is nice, having a free roll dodge every 30 seconds is very nice, especially because it's not like this where you have to be affected by a disabling effect. This is whenever you want. So I would take this over this. Now survival instincts is another one. Most of this red CP on this left side is up to you guys on how you want to play this build. These sets are not optimized whatsoever. This is just ideas for you to try it out. Survival instincts helps your core combat skills, so when you're sprinting around or when you roll dodge, you break free, anything that you need to deal with for the snares, this is helping a 25% cost reduction. To me, that's worth it. Now inside of here in Wind Chaser, currently I have celerity on, and you'll see why in a bit. Movement speed in this build is a big key to helping you not only stay alive in PvP, but is also part of the fun of this build. We'll go over the rest of the champion points later in this video. The issue with this build is our 4 pieces are not great. Everything is going to stats we don't exactly want. Now let me buff up here real quick. So currently we got 14,000 magicka, we got 27.7k health, 26.7k stam. We got 576 mag recovery, 700 health recovery, 2100 stam recovery. We do have a weapon glyph on our back bar, so let's proc that real quick. So we got 3.7k spell damage, 14% crit chance, 5.5k weapon damage, and 26% weapon crit. Remember, we don't have any increased weapon or spell damage, so it was very tough to get our weapon damage that high up with all of our buffs. Now because we don't have a lot of weapon damage or crit, I went heavy into penetration. As you see, we got 11.7k physical and spell penetration. We do have a resistance buff, so we can actually go up to 20k resistance. On the attributes here, you can see it kind of went spread out. Depending on how you play this and what skills you want to use, you could go less magicka or more magicka. As you can tell already, we are currently a Warden, so there is a bit of both pools being. We are currently using the Lover Stone for more penetration. This actually outdamaged the Thief, because while the Thief did give us more crit chance, we're so low on crit chance it really didn't matter. So at that point, you just go all out penetration. Now for our food, you got a lot of options. So currently we are using our Tam Takeaway Broth. This gives you max health and health recovery, max stam, and stam recovery. But it's so spread out that it's only 3k of each and then about 400 of the recoveries. Be What Sugar Skulls gives you a lot more max pools. You get 4.6k health and 4.3k max pools. So that'll give you a lot harder hits and a lot more health to deal with, as well as almost 500 health recovery. I would recommend taking this if you can handle not having as much recovery. With that on and our Warden health buff, we can get up to 29k health. That's quite a bit more. Now if these two are too expensive for you guys, you can use Dubious Cameron Throne. that is a good blend between more max health and max stam and that stam recovery. Now magicka is being used in this, so even if you wanted, you can just use the crown food, the triple max pools. And if you're really struggling with finding food, even something as simple as this, just max health, max stam, you can end up hitting harder and having a lot of health to go through. Now before we move on to the skills, currently we do not have an enchantment on this front bar. The idea behind this build is not only to negate all their CCs, but we're also going to try to CC them quite a bit. So we have the Gold Coast trapping poison on this. You immobilize your target for 3.5 seconds and then reduce their movement speed for 6.5 seconds. We're mainly going to be on our front bar, so this is going to be proccing quite a bit. Now on our back bar, currently we're just using an infused weapon damage enchant. The issue with this is when you throw out volley, it's not like PvE where they stay in your AoE. They'll move out and then your enchant won't be proccing. So this may not pop up that often, so sometimes you just need to use a burst combo to get this procced so you can hit hard with your maul. Now this is a maul, you'll see why in the passives, and we're using a bow back bar. All of our armor is divines, depending on the way you want to play this. On the smaller pieces, you could do something like well fitted. It'll be a lot more speedy and you can just roll dodge for days. However, having divines does help out quite a bit. Now I did try doing infused on all of the big pieces to make your stam enchant higher. The issue with that was my main attack was actually performing less damage, just spamming it out, than if I had divines with the Lover Mundus Stone. Now if you don't want to do the Lover Mundus Stone, for a speed build that I'll show you guys later in this, because we got multiple builds with this setup, you do the Steed for more movement speed and health recovery. You can also do the Thief for more crit strike. However, like I said, even with a potion popped, we're only at 26% weapon crit. You can also do the Warrior, which will give you more weapon damage. However, you'll be lacking in penetration, and depending on your skill morphs, you may not have major breach on your enemies, and in PvP they can build up armor pretty well. For the jewelry, this is where we got most of our weapon damage. I went infused weapon damage. You could do bloodthirsty, however in PvP sometimes you just need to burst them down quickly, and the bloodthirsty sometimes it just doesn't work as well. And we're so low on weapon damage that we really needed to push up that weapon damage as much as we can. Now on to the skills. So first of all, we are a Redguard. This is usually not what I would think to use, especially if you're wanting to be a damage dealer. Now, you got increased duration of eating foods by 15 minutes, whatever. Reduces the cost of weapon abilities, that's quite nice. We use a lot of weapon abilities. And the big thing, reduce effectiveness of snares by 15%. That's an additional 15% on top of the 50% that we have from our armor passives. Now you also get 2k max stam, and then when you deal damage, you restore 1k stam every 5 seconds. Simple as that. It's not great for damage for passives, but just from this passive alone, we're going to be reducing snares even more. Now for the first skill, we are using Dizzying Swing. You slam an enemy, dealing about 11k damage, and set them off balance. If you hit them again with this, or if they're already off balance from something else, you'll stun them for 2 seconds. And if they're already immune to off balance, they're going to be snared. Now, currently, PTS is bugged, so I currently do not know what that percentage is. It only says 0%, but it is a snare. So we can make a lot of people CC just from this one skill. This next skill is our main Execute. As you can see, Executioner. You do 4.7k damage, but it can deal up to 400% extra damage to enemies that have 50% health. The thing with this is it starts at 50, so the lower they get, the more this ramps up, whereas stuff like the Night Blades or the Sorks they're at low numbers like 20 and 25%, so we can actually start this much earlier. This is where we start getting into the flex spot stuff. So this is part of our speed build, but this is also helping negate more of those CC type things. So just popping this, we get major expedition for 6 seconds, simple as that. But while it is slotted, we also get minor evasion, reducing AoE damage incoming. The other morph of this skill, instead of doing minor evasion, it'll give you minor berserk. The issue with that is, since they nerfed it, it's only 5% extra damage, and we kind of are not doing much damage. So 5% off of almost nothing is just crap. So I went with this morph. Next up, forward momentum. You get major brutality, increasing your weapon damage by 20%, and minor endurance, giving you more stam recovery. The other morph of this, when you pop it, it will trigger a heal, but it's kind of a weird heal. It builds up the heal but doesn't give it to you yet. The second you pop it again, or if it runs out of time, then it gives you that massive heal. The issue with that is, what if you don't have time to pop it, or you're out of stam, you don't have your heal. So even though it's nice for sometimes, it's not really reliable as a healing source. But with this morph, when you activate it, you remove all snares and immobilizations, and you get immunity for 4 seconds. It's cheaper to do this than to break free or roll dodge. So if you get hit by anything, you just pop this, you get your weapon damage and your minor endurance redone for your 20 seconds, and then now you're immune and cleansed. This is another flex spot. So the issue with this build is, even though most of our stuff has a lot of defensive stats on our armor, like the health recovery and the health, max health and armor, we are fairly squishy because we are all medium. So in this spot, currently I found it's best to use Brawler. You do 6k damage to all enemies in front of you. This is a cone, not in full AoE. When you do this, you gain a damage shield that absorbs 5.7k damage. Now this actually goes up with your weapon damage, so if I pop our major brutality skill, this skill has gone up to 6.3k damage for 6 seconds. But here's what's special about Brawler. Each enemy hit increases the damage of that shield by 50%, up to 300. So when we pop this on a single target, we get about a 6k shield. It's a pretty beefy shield. If you're fighting multiple enemies, look at my bar now. Almost fully filled up. You got 6 times 6. I don't even know how it's not full 36k shield, considering our health is only 29k. So this is very powerful, and you can just spam this all you want, and it does pretty decent damage. Like I said, this is a flex spot. In PvP, sometimes you need a gap close, and currently, while we are fast, we don't really have a gap closer, so you could swap this out for critical rush. This does 5.6k damage, and it's a gap closer, but it can deal up to 50% more damage based on the distance traveled, and it's always going to be a critical strike. The other morph leaves an AoE on the ground, but people are just going to walk out of that right away, so I would prefer to take this. Next up, our ultimate. So we are currently using the Dawnbreaker ultimate. Now it does do good upfront damage and a DOT, and it stuns them. There are other options that you can do, especially as a Warden. However, part of the other reason why we have this on is, in these passives, you get an extra 3% weapon and spell damage just for having it slotted. So we could be throwing in Trap Beast, however, since we don't have good crit chance, not worth it. On the back bar, this is our first heal, Resolving Vigor. This is technically a flex spot, however, I would very much advise keep this on you. You need a stam heal. Pretty much everything else that we have for healing is not stamina. This gives you 15k over 4 seconds. It is a big heal to have. Originally, I had put on Arctic Blast. It does do a good instant heal, however it's based on magicka, 4k magicka, but it stunned enemies in an AoE, so that's the main reason why I had this. However, it's based off of max health, not a very good heal. Next up, this is also a flex spot. Currently we used Arrow Barrage to show off our weapon enchant. That is better at keeping your weapon enchant. If you pay attention to that timer down there, it gets re-proc the second it ends. But in PvP, people will step out of it. However, you could do the other morph, Endless Hail, which is a much bigger area, and it'll be more likely to proc something. However, you could do Lethal Arrow. So this is a good long-ranged hit, but it still procs your enchant for that first hit. So you could hit with that first and then come in with your big smack. Next up, Ice Fortress. So this is where we're getting our major resolve, getting both physical and spell resistance increased by about 6k. Very powerful. And it does actually give major resolve to your allies in an 8-meter radius, however that is pretty small. The other morph of this makes the AoE part of this bigger, so more enemies will get it. However, this is a selfish version where we also get minor protection. It's only 5%, but why not throw it on top? This is where things start getting more interesting towards our fast and mitigating snares. We are using Elude. This is the medium armor tree skill. You have to have 5 pieces of medium armor equipped. That is required. But when you activate this, for 40 seconds, you get major evasion, which reduces damage you take from AoEs. That is massive. Especially if you think about all the AoE insta hits like the shulks from the Warden, you can negate 20% off of that. When you're in PvP, they can hit hard, so this is massive. But that's not all. While it's active, whenever you take damage from a direct AoE attack, you gain Major Expedition for 7 seconds. Another source of Major Expedition. So whenever you get hit by those AoEs, you're just speeding around now, and if they try to snare you or immobilize you, it barely affects us. Each piece of medium increases the duration of it. If you throw on 2 heavies pieces of armor, you'll have much more resistance, so you'll be more survivable, but that's up to you guys. The next one is Gripping Shards. This is a part of our another immobilize that we have. This immobilizes them for 3 seconds. It does 1k frost damage a second, not much. But they also get Bitter Cold, which reduces their movement speed by an unknown amount for 3 seconds. Now that damage is done based on max health, which is not a lot, but you also have a higher chance of applying the Chilled status effect, which increase their amount of crit damage taken. Now in that slot, if you guys have the fish stick order, as I call it, you can use Borrowed Time. So this reduces movement speed of all enemies in the area, and then it stuns them. And they get 5k heal absorption for 3 seconds. The issue with this is it does take time to activate, so currently you can just pop this ice thing instantly. If you slot this, you can do this at range, that's the benefit of it, but it takes a while for it to activate, so people can try to just roll dodge out, they're done. Now if you're looking to do more damage, Cutting Dive is a very good skill. It does a good amount of damage, and it's another source of off balance, because here's the thing, you use this, they get set off balance, hit them with this, they're stunned. The other thing you could do is our Scorch skill. So the shulks, the magicka version specifically, does 10k AoE. It's pretty good skill, sadly it is magicka though. But the main reason for using this, all the enemies get Major Breach. And this is a interesting skill because it has a 3-second delay. Now it's very obvious when we do it, it makes a loud noise. But it procs in front of us in a carpet. So if we were to go hit the targets here, It actually did hit them somehow, but it is very directional based on where you are facing, not where your camera is facing, where your player is. You need to pay attention to that. Now, if these shulks were too hard to deal with, you could do caltrops. That is a stam version, big AoE, also at range for 28 meters, so you can actually do it like all the way out there. Got a nice big area here, and that'll also do the major breach, but it also reduces their movement speed, so this is a very good snare as well. For the ultimate, for 200 ultimate, it is quite expensive and only lasts 12 seconds, but you do 2k frost damage every second, but you also reduce the movement speed and apply the chilled status effect, which increases their crit damage taken. But you and nearby allies also gain major protection, which is reducing your damage taken by 10%. Not a lot, but the AoE CC and protection while doing damage, it's worth it. And it follows you too, so you can just pop this, run around like crazy, and they're not going to do anything about it because you get to choose where this AoE is going since it's on you. Now, time for passives. The Warden can heal whenever an animal companion skill ends. So this is one that we proc for 6 seconds at a time. You flap your wings, run around, get healed for however much, like 13k. It's not a lot, but it's at least something. You're getting a little additional heal on top of all this extra stuff. Now, if you're spamming this stamina, that's also an attack that'll be healing you, and this. Now, when you cast that, you also generate 4 ultimate. It can occur every 8 seconds. Pretty good. Flat out, just give you magicka and stam recovery if it's slotted, which it is on our front bar, which is where we spend most of our time. You also increase your damage done for each animal companion slotted. We got 1, so it's just 2%. Healing tree, we don't do anything in. Whenever you heal yourself all under 40% health, you get major mending, whatever. Heal an ally, you gain stamina or magicka. We can't heal other people, so that's not going to happen. Increase healing done with the abilities, we're not using them. This is really the only passive that's into a play. Whenever you heal yourself or an ally, you grant the target minor toughness, increasing max health by 10%. So that's how, when we heal with this or with our wings, our health increases for 20 seconds. And so if you eat that food, that gives you crazy health. This one right here. And then I heal myself. We're at 30k max health. So the first passive, increase your chance of applying chilled by 200%. This does not mean it will apply to things. Even if it said it'll increase your chance of applying by 100%, that does not mean it's guaranteed to apply. If it was only at 2% before, that just means now it's at 4%. They've just doubled the chance for us to apply the chilled status effect. But we also get an additional 10% crit damage when they are chilled. Increase your resistances for slotted, we don't got any. Reduce effectiveness of snares by 15% again. So between this being a Redguard and a Ranger's Gait, we have about 80% worth of incoming reducing snares. Next up, just increase your magic and frost damage by 10%. We're not doing much, so that doesn't affect us too much. Two-hander. Light and heavy attacks damage up to 3 other enemies nearby for 50% of the damage inflicted. Cool, whatever. This is why we are using the mace. The mace gives us an additional 3,300 armor penetration. Axes, we're not doing critical damage. Now, we could do swords. That would increase our weapon and spell damage. However, like I said, in PvP, if you don't have breach, you need as much penetration as you can get, and in this case, the mace is gonna just be better. Reduce the cost of stamina, two-hand abilities. We're using almost all of them between these two being swapped out, so very much worth it. Every time you complete a heavy attack, the next attack you deal does an additional 10% damage. That can be nice depending on the burst that you use, but that kind of is... It's hard to do a heavy attack in PvP because if they block it, you can get stunned. Although with this build, that doesn't matter too much. Increase stam recovery by 30% after you kill a target. I don't know how much this build's going to get killing, but it can run fast and avoid pretty much everything with all of its buffs going. Now back for the CP. In the green tree, this will not really apply to us at all in PvP. This movement speed is only out of combat. Increase quality of items you find in chests, whoop-de-doo. Increase your mount speed. Overall, this will help us, however you're not going to be fighting on your mount, so that's only really for getting around in Cyrodiil. This also is just for getting around in Cyrodiil. Removes all mount stamina cost outside of combat. In the blue tree, this is where you have some flex spots. Depending on what main skills you use to attack, currently the build I was looking at, I was doing pretty much only single target stuff, so I took this. It'll at least give me some okay small healing incoming while I'm hitting them with my main skills. I also took deadly aim since we're, like I said, mainly single target, 10% here. Master at arms is direct damage, not DOT. It has to be instant hit up front. Additional 10% there. Untamed aggression, this is just to get us more weapon damage built up, and then make sure you get all of your passives. For potions, you can use the tri-stat. That'll give you your main pools back and recoveries. Since we do have the major brutality here and we don't really need the crit chance, that's fine. Obviously having more crit chance is better, so if you do want, you can use the gold coast elixir or the normal weapon power pots to get yourself some major savagery as well. However, these do not heal you, so you will need to be careful about that. Okay guys, it is time to check out the armor that I have decoratively made, and I'm actually pretty proud of this one. I was very surprised at how well the overall armor look came together. So the helmet is the Sapriarch helmet, which is the medium weight. The breastplate is the medium Abaz Watch Jack. The shoulders are the light ebony epaulets. The hands are the medium mercenary bracers. The sash is the light Akaviri sash. Now it's actually covered behind the cloth from the breastplate, so that's why I chose this. I don't want the sash to be visible in this case. The legs are the medium militant ordinator guards, and the boots are the medium Aldemary boots. The hammer maul is Thorn Legion, and the bow is the Celestial bow. Now for the colors, the main green is actually my personal green, the Viridian Venom. The lighter gray, you can see kind of on the decorative swirly parts, is Windhelm Steel, and the slightly darker gray is the Perfect Gray. Prefix Gray. Okay guys, so we are currently in Skill Color Peak, just on normal. We are not going through this dungeon. I will not survive in this dungeon. The point of this test is to see how we cannot be stopped at all. So we're just gonna aggro these people. So currently I'm getting hit pretty hard. This is where the brawler comes in. We got a lot of enemies just stacking up on us, and they're not doing anything to us. Now, this AoE hits extremely hard normally in the dungeon. Now look at this. I didn't even hit anything. Watch. We get stunned, instantly break out, barely costs anything at all. This brawler is really helping us stay alive, and that is how we're able to keep surviving. Now this, like I said, this AoE is absolutely going to slaughter you, so I'm not going to try to stand in that with this current build. However, all these ice spikes, they stun you. I'm just breaking free, and it's barely costing me anything. I'm actually doing pretty okay damage against these fools. And if you want, you can throw in some... I like using the fish stick bubble just because the ice spike, it's like the thing that I'm stepping in right here. I did not mean to take that. The Warden version of that only immobilizes, so the enemies are still able to attack. Whereas with the fish stick thing, they end up getting stunned, which means they cannot actually attack me in that mode. Okay, we're at the next part where there's more wolves who slow us. So if you see, we already got 2 slows on us right now, barely affecting us. We can also pop this. We didn't even have our major evasion on. I mean, we got a slow on us right now. Just got stunned, break free instantly, not a problem. I was standing in that AoE, which was hurting a lot. As you can see, this brawler comes in very clutch. It is very much needed, and we can stun them if we want. Just make them all stop attacking right there so we can continue moving on. Because think about this in PvP. If the second you get stopped, if we were to be in PvP and we're moving around, get stopped here, they can instantly just start destroying us. But if we just break free as soon as we can, and we have all of our buffs staying up, they can't slow us down. If they keep hitting us with AoEs, we're going to get Major Expedition. We can proc Major Expedition on our own if we wish. We have long-ranged attacks, so we can do that. We also can make a gap closer if we wish. So this build is very well-rounded as far as where you can use it. Its issues lie in the fact that the sets themselves are not providing any damage boosts or any bonuses towards the fight itself. Gonna have to call it here. I hope you guys enjoyed this new series. If there is any set in ESO, may not even be good. I mean, these 2 sets that I'm using right now, I would never ever use in my life. But the point of this series is to look at all these sets and just put them to use, see what fun we can come up with it. So if there's any build ideas you guys have with certain sets, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to check out what suggestions you guys have. Like and subscribe if you guys want to see more as we continuously break free. And these bosses, I mean, obviously they're gonna slaughter me if I actually get hit here. Yeah, like that. Let's see if we can get through this. Like and subscribe if you guys want to see more of this content, and I will see you guys next time.